Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm David Vogel, the Judge Executive. Happy to have you here today for our meeting on June 29th. This meeting is a special called meeting, and nothing will be added to the agenda. A special called meeting that to replace our first meeting in July, because we like to have all our bills paid for the fiscal year by the end of January. So, if you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tara Long, will you please call the roll?
Magistrate Likens.
Here.
Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Woosley.
Here.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Here.
Magistrate Hounds.
Here.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Here.
Magistrate Dye.
Present.
Magistrate Logston.
Present.
Judge Vogel.
Here. Having all members of the fiscal court present, this meeting is now in session. Motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All right, I mentioned earlier, because this is a special meeting, we will not be adding anything to the agenda. I will be removing one item, though, and that's item E. Excuse me, that's not item E. It's item D, surplus vehicle. Please take that off.
Are we allowed to do that?
All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, Tara will read the minutes from our last meeting, which occurred on the 20th of June.
June 20th, 2023. The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a regular meeting at 2:04 p.m. with Judge David Vogel, Assistant County Attorney, Tate Combs, and the following magistrates in attendance: Likens, Tice, Woosley, Jeffries, Hounds, Hawkins, Dye, Logston. Motion made by Magistrate Logston and seconded by Magistrate Dye to approve the agenda. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the minutes of June 6 with the correction of LaGrange Fire Protection Board member Kevin Vaughn's term date ending June 30th of 26 on page 497. Motion carried unanimously. During public comment, Jim Allen of 1416 Oldham View suggested a change to the location of recent documents on the Oldham County Fiscal Court website to make those documents easier to locate. Bob Leslie shared concerns regarding tree trimming and herbicide application during the course of the AT&T fiber project. Motion made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Dye to extend Mr. Leslie's time during public comment to complete his presentation. Bob Leslie continued his comments regarding the damage to trees and vegetation and the current state of his land and his neighbor's property. Judge Vogel responded to Mr. Leslie's comments and directed Deputy Judge Kevin Nuss to contact AT&T to cease any tree trimming activities until they are given other directions by Judge Vogel. Jim Allen, president of Crystal Lake Association, expressed concerns regarding damaged vegetation and trees from utility companies. Representatives from the Oldham County Soil and Water Conservation District provided an update on recent activities and programs offered by the district. Motion was made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the payment of the payables as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to approve the budget transfers as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to surplus the 2005 Ford F-250 to scrap as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to surplus the 2005 Jeep Liberty to Gov Deals as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to surplus the 1987 Cat Road Grader for future trade-in value of $14,000 from Boyd Cat as submitted. Discussion followed. Motion carried unanimously. Brian Fogel, Assistant Director of Planning and Zoning, presented for a second reading and public hearing Ordinance KOC 23-920-343, repealing and replacing sections of the existing Oldham County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance. Discussion followed. Judge Vogel asked those wishing to speak during public hearing to approach the podium. Jim Allen, 1416 Oldham View, in LaGrange, was sworn in and provided comments regarding the zoning amendments as submitted and offered suggested changes. There being no further public comment, the public hearing was closed. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Likens to accept private clubs and event venues of KOC 23-920-343 as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Likens to accept agritourism buildings of KOC 23-920-343 as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Likens to accept golf driving ranges of KOC 23-920-343 as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins to remove school capacity standards as submitted from KOC 23-920-343. Motion failed due to lack of second. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to accept school capacity standards of KOC 23-920-343 as submitted. Motion carried 8-1. Magistrate Hawkins voted no. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Likens to accept solar energy systems of KOC 23-920-343 with the following amendment. Replace 20 feet with 10 feet in item 5 on page 14 regarding the maximum height of ground-mounted SES. Discussion followed. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Likens to amend the motion with the following language. Replace 20 feet with 10 feet in item 5 on page 14 regarding the maximum height of ground-mounted SES. Change the required setback for non-residential from 30 feet to 50 feet in item 5 on page 15. Discussion followed. Motion carried 8-1. Magistrate Dye voted no. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Logston to take recess at 4:22 p.m. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Hawkins to resume the meeting at 4:37 p.m. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to accept KOC 23-920-343 as amended. Motion carried 8-1. Magistrate Dye voted no. Tina Schaaf, Director of Human Resources, presented for a second reading ordinance KOC 23-200-370, amending Chapter 2, Chapter 3, and Chapter 4 in the Administrative Code. Judge Vogel asked those wishing to speak during public hearing approach the podium. There being no public comment, the public hearing was closed. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to adopt KOC 23-200-370 as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to authorize Judge Vogel to sign the Link NCIC interlocal agreement as submitted. Discussion followed. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Woosley and seconded by Magistrate Hawkins to authorize the purchase of the 24-foot slide replacement at $410,000 for the John Black Aquatic Center. Discussion followed. Motion carried 5-4 with the following magistrates voting in opposition: Logston, Hounds, Jeffries, Tice. Motion made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to hire Patrick Metter as Assistant County Attorney at a rate of $51.28 an hour, effective effective June 20th, with appointment to County Treasurer effective July 1st. Motion carried unanimously. Judge Vogel announced the retirement of Melissa Horn as County Treasurer effective June 30th. Motion was made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to enter into closed session pursuant KRS 61-810B, deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property with the inclusion of the following members: Deputy Judge Kevin Nuss, Sheriff Tim Wakefield, Chief Greg Smith, and Assistant County Attorney Tate Combs. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to come out of closed session. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Woosley and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to allow Judge Vogel to pursue the details associated with potential property purchase. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to hold a special meeting of Fiscal Court on Thursday, June 29th at 2 p.m. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously and the meeting adjourned at 5:51 p.m.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from June 20th. Are there any corrections? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Time now for public comment, the time during our meeting when anyone who is here to address the fiscal court is able to do so. I see no one getting up, so we'll close public comment and go on to the first item on our agenda, and that is a bid opening for lights at Wendell Moore Park baseball field and the batting cage. lights are for field 1 and 2, and also for the batting cage. First bid is from Qualite Sports Lighting of Hillsdale, Michigan. Melissa, you want to look at this and see if you can find the bid in there? Second bid is Techline Sports Lighting, Austin, Texas. Bid price for project with 10-year warranty not to exceed $533,560. Bid price for the project with the not to exceed bid price for the project with a 25-year warranty is $567,560.
So there wasn't a price for 10 years?
Oh. Bid price not to exceed $450,174.
Which one was that?
That was Qualite Sports Lighting.
Can you repeat it?
Repeat the bid again, please.
$450,174.
Judge, do they have a guarantee year? No.
Everybody was supposed to provide a 25-year guarantee. These others just threw in that option, which was not solicited. And now we have Knight Electric of Russellville, Kentucky. Price not to exceed $589,910. $589,910. All right, we thank our bidders for participating today. Those bids will be looked at to make sure that they are in complete agreement with the specs for the project, and then we'll be announcing the
Judge,
selected company later.
I had one question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed on here on one bid was a Secretary of State is in bad standing. Does that make a difference? That one company is evidently bad standing?
With the Secretary of State? Right.
They're in bad standing because their registration expired in 2018. Usually what we say is they have to be in good standing at the time of award. So we give them a chance to get corrected. Okay. And the other thing on here while we're talking about that is I was unable to check the federal exclusions because that website with the federal government is down right now. So.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Trump probably did something to it.
Go on now to county administration. We have two sets of payables here. The first set is for claims as of June 29th, 2023. Is there a motion to accept those?
I'll make a motion, we accept the payables.
Second.
All right, this is for those claims as of June 29th, and that is as of today. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we have claims payable on or after July 1st that have come in.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on those? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we have budget transfers. Melissa?
Okay, to wrap up this fiscal year, we need budget transfers totaling $88,326.82.
Judge, the budget transfers were brought to the Finance Committee special call meeting today, and it did pass the Finance Committee. I'd like to make a motion, we approve the budget transfers of $88,326.82.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the budget transfers? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now we have, the next item is our treasurer bond approval, and that is for our incoming treasurer, the bond, Pat Metter. The bond is for $100,000, and that bond is through Liberty Mutual.
Judge, I move that we approve that bond.
All right, moved and seconded, the bond effective on the 21st. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now down to contracts and resolutions. We have the Animal Control Spay-Neuter Grant. Polly, would you like to review that for the court?
Good afternoon. We're again applying for the Kentucky Department of Agriculture Spay-Neuter Grant. This grant helps people spay and neuter their pets who otherwise would not be able to do so. This benefits community because it reduces the risk that homeless pets have on the public health-wise. It also reduces the expense to our community for unwanted animals, and it reduces the workload at the shelter. So we're asking the court to authorize Judge Vogel to sign this grant application and any other related forms for this grant.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded, that I be able to sign the spay-neuter grant application. Any discussion on that?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am?
There's something on here that talks about match dollars. Then will you be coming forward and asking for $1,500 from us to match it?
That comes out of our veterinary budget
Okay.
item.
Gotcha.
All right, and we did have this week, we had on, what day was that? Tuesday, we had our groundbreaking for the new animal control shelter, and things look nice, and they're off to a good start, so we're happy about that. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now we have a contract to house prisoners here for Trimble County. I believe Jailer Jeff Tyndall is here to answer any questions for the court.
Good afternoon, Fiscal Court. As we do every year, we'd like to be in good faith with other counties, surrounding counties. And this year, after this year of me being the jailer, I have reviewed our numbers and I have looked at per diem, per inmates. And due to the cost increase on cost of living, price increases of food, medical and other jail services, I have requested through the other counties and the other county judges. I've been in talks with both of them, but we're dealing with Trimble County right now. I have been in contact with them, and I have a $4.30 increase on inmates. They're as of July the 1st, they're going to go from $35.70 a day to house their county inmates to $40 a day. It's a 12% increase.
That's your recommendation to the court, correct?
That is my recommendation to the court. I'm asking the court to approve that.
Right. Were these numbers reviewed with Mr. Clark?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
And the county attorney, and assistant county attorney.
Okay, great. Okay. Is there a motion we accept this contract with Trimble County at $40 per day?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
have
I
a
have
question
one
for you.
question.
Yes, sir.
Is this for 1 year?
This is
renewed
for
every
1
year?
year. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, and we can review it again. This is the biggest increase we've had. Of course, we know that the cost of living is going dramatically up. And, of course, some, they question why. And when your food goes up and our two main expenses are food and medical. And when they've gone up and county inmates from other counties are using food and medical, we have to, it's costing us money, so we're going to have to ask other counties to bend a little bit. So yes, it's a yearly contract, and we will review it again in a year.
Measure Die.
I have a question. In here, in the contract, it's the first time I've seen this particular contract, but you just did it. How do you determine the mileage at 6.655 cents per mile when the state maximum is not nearly that high? Is that something we can understand it's on. Stan or maybe the county attorney, assistant county attorney, tell us, can they charge more than the state reimbursement allotment?
I will look into that.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just
Right.
saying, can you all do it when people here do mileage? Like, let's say you go to a conference, you don't get 65.5 cents a mile.
No, I do not.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering how you get by with it. And if you can do it, tell us how to do it, and we'll start getting by with it.
Okay, I will try that. I will try that, magistrate.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Just like to say, we don't actually have a deputy jailer follow us to conferences either, so that's going to justify some of that expense in transportation.
All right, we've got a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, go on to the next contract, and that's for Henry County.
Henry County was a little late signing this. I actually have a signed copy that they got to me last night. I don't think you have it in front of you, Judge, an actual signed copy by Judge Executive Bates, but it's the same thing. We've requested the $40 from $35.70 to $40 a day. Same reasoning, cost of living. And they have agreed to sign it.
Oh, okay.
Judge, I'll move that we approve that with Henry County, the jail
right.
contract.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. Anything else, Jeff?
There is
Oh,
one.
yeah, we've got our jail contract, all right, for medical care. Okay, go ahead.
This year, we're seeing, the past 2 years, we've seen a 2.99% increase on medical costs through the medical company that we're using. We're using Southern Health Partners. Been with Southern Health Partners for over 20 years. This year, they've increased cost, and this is one of the reasons why we had to increase the cost of Henry and Trimble County, is they've increased their cost from $732,557 last year to $754,534. That's a $21,976 increase. And I've looked at the numbers for the past few years. The past 3 years, they've done a 2.99% increase, when 4 years ago it was a 1.5%. I don't know why they're doing it. The cost, they say, of mental health is going up, and the county jails are facing a mental health crisis. They just told me that they've got me a new 40-hour-a-week mental health nurse starting next week. But yes, they've given a price increase. So due to the why we increased the prices with Henry and Trimble is because of some of this.
Okay, well, Jeff, I'm not trying to
No, you're fine.
throw you a curve here.
You're
but
fine, Judge.
Paragraph 6 of the Trimble County contract says that the Oldham County Detention Center will not be responsible for the cost of any medical treatment for Trimble County inmates.
We are not.
So how is it that we're linking the cost of this Southern Health Partners increase to that?
Southern Health Partners, the price is going up on medical services.
Right.
But Trimble County knows that we are not going to pay, and Henry County knows that we are not going to pay for their inmates. But they're just, the price is
Right, but I believe you just told us that one of the reasons you increased the rate for these people is because of the cost of medical care.
the cost of medical. We have Oldham County has the jail. We have a medical company. So we have to raise our prices because they've raised our prices. It's not just Trimble. I mean, they're seeing federal contracts too. They're seeing federal prisoners, and the feds are paying their portion of their bills as well.
Okay, so the cost of, just want to be clear about this.
Okay.
The cost of a Southern Health Partners increase is just for
The contract for Oldham County.
the contract for Oldham County
Correct.
inmates.
Correct. No, Oldham County Detention Center. That's the services they provide. They're providing services for everybody. They're raising their cost. We don't want to pay all the costs because we're watching other county inmates. So we had to come up with a number on the other contracts to bring up.
Okay, but it's other contracts, is we're not responsible for the costs that these other counties incur. A guy could say if we have to have people on staff to be able to treat people, even if others are picking up the cost of that cost.
Correct.
It's like when you go to the doctor's office, you don't just pay for your visit, you pay for everything the doctor learned before you
Correct.
got there in any circumstance that might arise.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just trying to differentiate who we're actually paying for here, and it's
we're
our own inmates plus the cost of having the service available for these other people, even though they're paying their own
If we didn't
cost
have,
that we.
if we didn't have the 25 extra inmates from Trimble and the 30 extra inmates from Henry County, then that's 55 inmates that Southern Health Partners wouldn't have to take care of. So their numbers wouldn't be as high as they are. They've got us at a per diem of $300 or at 300 people. So when it goes above the 300 people, they're saying that, well, we're going to charge you an extra $1.43 a day for each person over.
So we're being charged because these people are in the jail.
Correct.
Even though other people are actually funding the direct cost of whatever the medical care
Yes,
is.
sir.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I have a question. Jeff, on the, did you all think about sending this out for bids? That seemed like, I mean, that's a large increase for 1 year. Is there any other companies that could provide the services and maybe, give us a bid at less cost?
That is a possibility. We have, as Oldham County Detention Center, we have had a contract. I know it's been over 20 years. I don't know exactly if it's been 25, but we've had a contract with them, and we've been signing. Judge Vogel has been signing. We've been putting this in front of the fiscal court every year. We would consider putting it out for bids. I mean, we want the best service possible. Medical is the number one service that we get that could possibly cause lawsuits. We want the best medical professional out there. So if it's something, I mean, there's a 60-day clause, a 60-day get-out clause if we don't like this, but we've worked with them for 20 plus years.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that wouldn't be the best choice, but I just think with that kind of cost increase, 1 year.
Correct.
That maybe it's time to at least explore whether there's anybody else out there that could provide the same level of service. $700 and some $1,000, contract is a pretty good chunk of money.
And it's something that I would sit down and talk with magistrates in the fiscal court about that.
All right, we've had Southern Health Partners for a long time, and I do believe they've done a good job. We're certainly feel like they have.
Yes, sir.
One issue we did have, though, and I want to just explore that briefly, the Southern Health Partners have their ability to refuse who we accept into the jail because of a medical condition.
Any medical company has the ability to do that, yes, sir. But that would also be, I also have policy that I can refuse inmates. We do
Okay.
not,
Well, we had the issue here, in the last couple of years where I believe a couple of people were turned away,
Yes.
were sent to the hospital, and then we had one or two officers tied up for an extended period of time while those people were sitting in the hospital getting, I guess, cleared by the hospital and then sent back to the jail. And it just, it created a problem for our on the street enforcement because we were short then.
this is not the time to actually talk about that because this is just the contract portion of it. We can go back and forth on why we should refuse inmates or why we shouldn't refuse inmates, but there is If,
Okay, but you're telling me that
If-
Southern Health Partners or
Yes, they can.
XYZ Medical, anybody that was in the jail does have the option to cause us to refuse to let them in the jail, even though if you said they could come in, they
Myself-
might say they couldn't.
myself and Southern Health Partners, any medical profession can refuse that inmate.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so it's not just them, all right. Okay. As you die.
Jeff, what'd you say that I didn't get all your numbers, you went through them quarter. What percentage increase was it from last year to this last contract to this contract?
The last contract they had us, 732,557. And they increased it to 754,534. That's a $21,976
All right,
increase.
and what is that percentage increase? I thought you said it was a percent.
2.99.
Okay, do you know what it is the year before?
2.9.
Yes, yes. 2023. Year before, it went from a 711,221
And what was that percentage?
to 732,557. That was also 2.99.
Okay, so they've been consistent 2 years in a row on their increase?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've been involved with the jail, ever since I've been a magistrate, at some point and level. I know this much about jailing, having been an officer. The two places you get your lawsuits is from how the prisoner is handled on the street by your first responders and how they're handled in the jail. So, and I'll say that Southern Health Partners is probably, if not the premier, it is the premier company, and it's kept us out of lawsuits. And so between his staff, the sheriff and the chief of police, and Southern Partners being basically, I think, is the one that says, he can get heat from the budgetary people, but if they say this person shouldn't be here, they shouldn't be here. They should be at the hospital. If it's going to cost a little more and cost a little heartache, that's what it's going to cost. But having a couple of officers, and I know that it causes that heartache, but the thing is, it beats a $2 or $3 million lawsuit. So we've been, and I have to give Mike Simpson credit for that, and you have continued on with that. We haven't had any lawsuits, so let's stay the course. And a 2.9% increase, if you remember what we talked about back in January on wage increases, we were way above 2.99%. So is the increase justified? Unless I got Stan Clark to dig through the numbers like a coal miner, he could probably tell us. But I don't have a problem with a 2.99% increase.
And I can tell you this: I have looked at other health companies. If we have with the next 60 days, if I find somebody that's going to provide the services that Southern Health Partners has been able to, and they're going to be able to do it at a better cost or do a better service, then I'm going to bring it up to the fiscal court. I am. And I'll tell you, in the last few months, I've looked, and I'm continuing to look. 60 days, I'm doing it every day, and because I want what's best for our county. So,
Okay, well, we're not.
No, I know.
We're not challenging on that.
I'm
We're
fine.
just trying to understand exactly how.
I understand, sir.
How these facts interplay with each other.
yes,
And I think we have had them for a long time, and we have.
have.
I agree with Magistrate Dye. We've had no issues.
correct. And I will say this as well. I haven't had any problems with Chief Smith or Sheriff Wakefield. If we haven't had any refusals in the past year, but there will be a time where we have a refusal, and whether it takes their officers off the street for a few hours, or if my officers out of the jail for a few hours, somebody's going to have to be out. And but we're making sure that no lawsuits are being done for this county, because it's going to cost a lot more money by just more than a few hours. So,
All right, thank you.
all right.
All right, do we have a motion on this?
So moved.
Second? Yes. Magistrate Tice, all right. Any further questions All in favor of approving this contract with Southern Health Partners, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you,
for the
Jeff.
support.
Okay, we have now the report from the Reapportionment Committee, which was formed not very long ago, and I think we have Amy Elvey here, our county clerk, and also Adam Forsyth, who is the chairman of the Reapportionment Committee.
Oh,
I said Forsyth, I meant Forsyth. Well, it's,
All right, good afternoon, Amy Alvey, Oldham County Clerk. Adam Forsyth, again, he is your chair of your reapportionment committee. Just a little bit of history. Obviously, this is new to me. We do have some new magistrates here. This occurs every 10 years. So just giving you a little bit of background on it. KRS 670452 states that in, excuse me, in counties where members of the county fiscal court are nominated or elected by districts, the boundaries of those districts shall be drawn so that districts are compact, contiguous, and the population of each district shall be as nearly equal as reasonably possible. And then also it states in KRS 670454 that fiscal court shall initiate reapportionment proceedings in May of the first year following the decennial census of the United States. The fiscal court may at other times review the district boundaries and shall initiate reapportionment proceedings if the district boundaries are in violation of subsection 2. Due to COVID-19, the census data was delayed, so they did not receive this until September of 2021. Because of this, it was impossible for the process to abide by the timeline set out in the statute. So the General Assembly passed House Bill 212, which required the process to start in May of 23. So on May 16th of 2023, Fiscal Court approved the appointments of the Reapportionment Commission. That is Adam Forsyth, Jane Coble-Royer, and Blaine Anderson. Myself, as the county clerk, is on the commission, but I am non-voting and basically they're just as an advisory role. So within 60 days of the appointment from the May 16th, a commission has to file a written report, which you have, with the county clerk and fiscal court detailing the suggested boundaries, including the estimated population in each. Then you guys have 60 days from today of the receipt of the report to consider and either adopt or amend it. So again, this is just a recommendation from the Reapportionment Commission. So any changes that any magistrate feels that's at your discretion. That is a fiscal court decision. You would work with Zach Zerhog with KIPTA to help understand the process and the lines and things of that nature. So within 20 days, once you all adopt the new map, within 20 days of establishing the new boundaries, any registered voter may bring action to circuit court if they feel the law has not been followed, and if the voter prevails, then circuit court can award a reasonable attorney's fee to be paid from fiscal court funds. So this is the 2010 map. You want to say something? No. Okay. This is the 2010 map. So this is what the original layout was that was approved in 2010. This is the proposed 2020 map, and the mouse does show on here. Yeah, so there is the red lines that are on here, and I have a zoomed in one of each district in here as well. But like this is an example of the proposed District 1 is there in the bright pink. And then the previous line is outlined there in red. So it's the same thing, like this is District 3. This was the prior line of District 3. So that kind of just gives you an idea. So this is just a side-by-side comparison of 2010 to 2020. The total population, and again, questions were asked about, how many registered, voters are Republican and Democrat in each one. This map is not based off of voter population. It is based off of population from the census. So this is not the number of registered voters in each district. So again, these are population numbers. Sorry. And then what the rule is that there is a 5%, you can have up to a 5% difference in between the districts. So the range is from 8027 to 8873. And then this is the breakdown. And again, this is off the proposed lines. So you'll see each district here. And I have a chart in there as well, which you've probably already seen. But again, this is District 1. So again, here is the new proposed line. And again, in the red is the prior line. So the proposed population for District 1 is 8629, which is 12.6%. District 2 is here in blue. District 2 is on the higher side and with the population count, and the reason that was done is because it includes the population from the Kentucky State Reformatory. That had to be included in the population because that was part of the census. So we did have to include those numbers in there. So that's why you see that is on the higher side, because obviously they're in the population, but they're not registered voters. District 3 is the same way. This shows that there was 1,163 inmate population that was at KCPC, and then 167 inmates at Oldham County Detention Center. And again, this was the number of inmates that were at both of those locations at the time that the census count was done. District 4 is 8245, so it's 12.2%. District 5 is 8233, so it's at 12.2%. And again, you can see old lines versus new lines. District 6, 12.2%, 8289. Which District 6, there was no change. District 7 is 8289 as well, 12.3%. Sorry, I must have not changed that. It's actually, 12.3. And there was no change in District 7 boundaries. And then District 8 is 12.8, 8658 is the total. And again, the red line was the previous line, and then you can see where the colored is, that is the new. So this is just a chart that I put together that shows the comparison of the 2010 population per district to the 2020 population per district, and then what we proposed to get it to balance out. And then it shows the next column is the increase from the 2010 to versus the 2020, and then the overall percentage from 2010 to 2020. So I'll let Adam add anything if he has anything to add. And again, this is just a recommendation from the commission.
Yeah, no, the only thing I would add is that the ideal number we were looking for was 8,451 people in each district. We did our best, like Amy said, to keep the districts, the boundaries the same as they were.
Oh, closer, sorry.
And I apologize. We did the best to keep the districts the same as they were, previously. And, with that in mind, we had to shift them a little bit, though, just because of the population increases. So I think Amy and Zach did a real good job of putting everything together. So the committee appreciated their efforts.
All right, thank you for your presentation. And Adam, thank you, and thank the other members of the commission for the work you put in. You had some time involved here, and I mentioned that you'd get $50 an hour. So I don't know exactly how we get your bill, but I guess you can give it to Amy, everybody. Well, she'll pass it along to us or something.
Can do that.
But all right, is the commission now finished? So it'll be up to the court to either accept or adjust these lines accordingly, correct?
And you have 60 days to do that.
Pardon? Yeah.
You have a 60-day window to do that.
60-day, right. Does anyone here have any questions for Adam or Amy? Magistrate Hounds.
Amy, is there a way we can get a list of the streets? Because like when I try to drill down, I have to put these on again, the line get blurry. So I don't know, is there a...
We can ask Zach at KIPTA to turn on the street layer with the updated information. there's other things that comes into play that we have to be careful with, because on my side as being the county clerk, of splitting precincts,
Right.
with school district boundaries, the law is you cannot, house districts, those cannot cross magisterial lines, so we have to keep that all into play as well. And it really only affects,
1 and 3 or 1 and 2?
let me go back to it. It really affects more 7, 8, and 5, because it's all right in here
Oh,
where the
okay.
lines come in. So you have to be really careful, because again, a magisterial district cannot cross those lines. So we have to keep everyone in there, and that's why some of them had to go north, because you couldn't get out of those. But we can ask them to turn on school boundary lines, house district lines, and then I'll get him to send me it in the streets and have him send a new layer on that, because once whatever lines they end up being, then my office has to go through and determine what precinct they're in now and recode each individual address so they get the right ballot. Yes. So that's why you don't want to change the lines as much as you can, because each voter, we have to go to each house, see what voters, how many voters are registered on that street, and then change their codes in the system so they get the right ballot. So it's a huge undertaking for this to happen.
So I guess when I was looking at this, some of the information that you told us, I didn't realize. I knew about the house districts. We have to keep the magisterial districts, don't cross the house districts. But some of that stuff may be good bullet points for if we have questions, because I know in conversation with other magistrates, I don't think everybody knew that. And I just learned about it on Monday. So I had no,
Yeah, so let's see.
if you maybe put a bullet point email out so we can see that stuff, because I think that may negate some of the questions by some of the magistrates. They may not be able to ask for some changes
Sure.
because of the restrictions.
I can send that out when we get that updated link as well, with those bullet points of what cannot cross magisterial. And then plus, you also have to keep in mind that you have to keep everyone in their district. And it's just not magistrates. You have to look at constables and other elected officials that are district-based. So school districts, and school district doesn't come into play this. But then if you end up splitting, we have 38 precincts now, and in ideal world, you want to have 76 ballot faces, Republican and Democrat. But then when you start moving lines and changing that, then you could have, if it divides in a street, then you could have 3 times that many, because this side of the street is this magistrate with this school board member, and it's a different magistrate here with the same school board member. So you start getting different ballot faces and things like
Or
that.
splitting the city lines.
Correct. And yes, it gets tricky. But yeah, I thought I had it quickly here. I thought I had it highlighted, but I don't think I do. But yes, there are certain ones that you cannot cross.
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot there.
That's
with
okay.
those.
I know you like to. That's okay. You know how it goes. But yeah, I don't have it here quickly at my fingertips, but I can send that out for sure. So you know what has to stay in what boundaries.
Judge.
All right, Magistrate Woosley.
Ms. Alvey, you specifically mentioned Kentucky State Reformatory inmates were in District 2, and KCPC and Oldham County Detention Center are in District 3. What about Luther Luckett and Roeder Correctional Complex?
They weren't individually identified, so they either did not turn in their census numbers. Those were the only ones that had identified census numbers. Because they are in census tracts. So we have 8 here, then just think we have 38 precinct districts, but then the census tracts, there's probably over 100. So when you click on it, and it depends on where the Census Bureau puts the pin, because we knew KSR was really more towards number 2. But where they have the pin, and that's where we have to count it in that district. So they either didn't report it on there or they included it in those numbers, but it was only identified as KCPC. And they may not use Rotor because they're not considered, most of them are not long-term because we always call that the fishbowl where they go for assessment and then they go to whatever institution they're going to go to.
Yeah, understood
So
that
maybe
one. I was
long-term.
questioning Luther Luckett since it's in the same facility as KCPC.
Right.
but-
So I don't know if they just labeled it that way.
Actually, was he trying to get more constituents?
Well, you know, not as many stops. You can only stop at one or two facilities. You know, you hand
Right.
out candy and.
Our Magistrate Tice.
For clarity in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
we've got 60 days to accept this. And if we challenge this, do we still have to give another alternative within this 60
Yes.
days?
Yes.
So
You
in other
have to
wo-
have a complete map within 60 days of today.
From today?
Correct.
That's acceptable, whether it's this or some other form?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that may mean how fast we want to see if we can accept this or decide to do something different. Thank you. Thanks.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Just a question. The women's prison, is that in District 8?
The women's prisons in Shelby County.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
KCIW is in-
So that wasn't part of the count?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So the court will have 60 days now to look at this and come forward with any suggested changes. Or they're mandatory changes, aren't they, if they're adopted here?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. It doesn't actually come back to the
Doesn't come
the,
back, no.
reapportionment
no.
commission. But we would have to, you would have to provide the new lines and stuff to my office.
Crown is okay?
Say again?
Crown is okay?
Yes.
Judge, are you going to create an
Mag-
ad hoc committee?
Pardon?
Are you going to create an ad hoc committee to review this, or what's the steps forward?
When I read the minutes from 2010, they did appoint 3 magistrates to review this and present any changes. And they worked with some of the members of the reapportionment committee and the clerks to work with the lines to understand, you know, you can't move this one here because then that changes house districts and that kind of stuff, to be able to sit down and look at it. But that's totally at the
Okay,
purview of judge.
Do we have any volunteers to be on the ad hoc committee?
Volunteer. Rock, paper, scissors.
Well, I see 4 volunteers. Okay. Let's do this. Everybody who would like to be on the committee, submit their name to me. I'll draw 3 names and we'll go with that. Okay? That way.
Then I would assume with that many hands coming up that we're not ready to take action on it today.
No need to.
Okay.
Right.
And
We
what
just had to have
time
the
frame do you
report.
think we would
Right.
want to do that, Judge?
Pardon me?
And how soon do you think we'd want to start?
Well, if everybody else, if the names of the individuals who'd like to be on the ad hoc committee will submit their names to me today, I'll put them in a fishbowl and I'll draw out 3 people tomorrow and we'll get the ball rolling.
can
Let
get-
everybody know
Thank
who it
you.
is.
60 days goes fast because you also, once you decide on the lines, then you have to have a written legal description for each one. And that's as much time consuming
Right,
as
and
looking
they
at
would
the
work with
census.
you and Adam and Kipta on
And
that?
KIPTA, yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'll say at this point that I'm satisfied with my lines and will not be suggesting any changes. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, we're down to our final public comment here. Anybody in the courtroom would like to speak? And
Good afternoon, Court.
Okay.
Jerry Nart, representing the Veterans Memorial Park of Kentucky and American Legion Post 39. I'm sorry I wasn't here at the last fiscal court meeting to make a report on the flag retirement. I had a schedule conflict. But 5 years ago, Judge Vogel established the Oldham County Flag Retirement Program, if you will, and asked me to be the lead on it, which I gladly accepted. Since that time, we have collected over 2,500 flags. This past June the 10th, we did it on the Saturday before Flag Day, which is June the 14th. We retired over 660 flags just this year. So I asked also when I left county government this past February to enjoy 3 granddaughters, and they keep me busy. I asked that if I may take the program with me, so to speak, as a member of the American Legion Post, and I'm also on the board of directors for the park. And Judge allowed me to do that. So we will continue to do that, Judge. So it's been a very successful program. We don't quite do 8 or 10,000 like the G.I. Joe American Legion Post in J-Town, but I think it's significant for Oldham County. Since the judge started that program, we had the collection box here in the building. We put up a box at the park as well. And then I had one of the employees at the library call me and volunteer. She put up a box as well. So it's growing, if you will. So it's been very successful. So
Right. Well,
wanted
it's
to make sure.
amazing. There are that many flags in the county that need to be retired at any
So
particular time.
we're averaging over 600 a year. So, and if anybody have any questions on that?
And Jerry, I'm not sure. My memory is half faulty. I don't know if at the last time you were here, if I actually thanked you, or you retired along the way, but you may not have actually been here. I don't think you were on the day you retired. So
Well, I appreciate
we want
that,
to
Judge.
thank you for the service you provided Oldham County.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate
right.
it.
There's our EMA director and the dispatch director. You
And-
did a great job, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. And if I may expand on that just a little bit, my item number 2 is during that time period as emergency management director and the director of Oldham County Dispatch for intermittent times, I would like to say how much I appreciate it and how grateful I am for working with Ms. Horn as the treasurer with budgets, more than one, being a dual-hatted person. We also had to feed the state, if you will, with Kentucky Emergency Management. And so she was very, very helpful. And I'm going to admit, couldn't have done it without her. And so I'd like to just show my appreciation for what she's done for Oldham County and for me in particular. So,
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Well spoken. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you. All right. I think we've got another speaker here for public comment. Welcome, Steve Greenwell.
Thank you.
Magistrate Steve Greenwell.
Steve Greenwell, 6350 South Highway 53, Smithfield, Kentucky. I have a question and then I have a story. Question is, what happened to our beautiful plaza in front of the courthouse?
The plaza is being taken apart and it'll be reassembled with the statue directly in front of the front door, as it was previously. When the courthouse got moved, however many feet over, 42 feet or something, it left the statue and the brickwork around the statue off center. So part of the project is to get that recentered in front of the courthouse door. Yeah.
Was that included in the original cost?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. It's been there from the beginning. Right.
Okay. So the story I had to tell is about Melissa Horn. And shortly after she came to work here, that first summer, I believe, I called her up on a Friday morning about 10 o'clock. And I said, Melissa, I have a very important question for you. And she said, hold on, magistrate. And so she got her notebook and her pen and everything. And I said, can you do me a favor? She said, well, sure I can. And so I said, look out your window in your office. I said, and see if there's a big blue school bus down there, the fish bus. And she said, what? And I said, it's Friday. Is the fish bus open for business? And so she looked out her window and she said, yes, it is, as a matter of fact. So she can do it all, Judge.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment today? All right. I think we're coming down here to the final, part of the meeting, and we'll see if any magistrates have any, final comments here. After the meeting, we're going to recess into our large conference room where we're going to have a reception for Melissa Horn, who's down to the last, 9 hours of employment here. We're assuming you'll be here for most of the day tomorrow, and we've got an hour and some left today, so we're going to have her, going to try to send her off in a nice way, and appreciate everything Melissa's done for 13 years, and it's been a good 13 years. We've all learned a lot and helped each other, and Melissa's been right in the main stay of helping keep our organization solid afloat, in good shape with Frankfurt and in good shape with our community. So thank you very much, Melissa. All right. Magistrate Logston, would you have any final comments?
Yes, I just want to thank Melissa for your 13 years of service. Don't be a stranger. I'm sure we'll be calling you, hopefully. And also, I wanted to remind everybody that please think about your neighbors during the 4th of July. A lot of animals, a lot of horses, a lot of dogs are scared of fireworks. So just please be careful with yourself and the animals. So.
Magistrate Dye.
Melissa, you've been a mainstay. There was always two places to get an answer, and you went to you first to get the right one. So I never had to bother to go to the second place. So in 13, I've worked with you for 12 and a half years. You were here when I got here, and I'm not glad that you're gone, but I'm glad that you're doing what you want to do now. That's the most important thing for you and John. So that's it.
Thank you. Magistrate Hawkins.
I just wanted to thank Melissa for keeping us out of trouble. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Magistrate Hounds.
First thing, Judge, you did mention earlier about the groundbreaking of the animal control building. I see you did mention that. So that building is hopefully underway. We'll start seeing some stuff come out of the ground, or at least get the pad poured. A lot of people have asked questions about when it's going to be open, and I think when Deputy Judge Nuss and I were talking, substantial completion in January, right? Thereabouts, okay. So first quarter of 2024, make sure I get the right date out there. We did have a meeting last week with the AT&T fiber folks. It was a very productive meeting. They are still stating that they are on track to complete the project timely. They're working on their sales process. There's been a few people that have asked questions about they're getting conflicting information. I know that I believe Magistrate Jeffries called and thought he was going to get it installed on a Tuesday, and I don't know if it's still installed or not, but
Nope.
Unfortunately, they're working through some of the logistics of that project, but it is happening. It may not happen at the pace which everybody wants, but it is happening. And I'll use a quote from Magistrate Dye. When I first got on court, he said, when somebody asks you when their street's going to be cleaned from a snow event, you tell them somebody's going to be first, somebody's going to be last. And unfortunately, that's just the way it bounces. Also, I'd like to say kind words about Melissa. I worked with Melissa prior to becoming a magistrate through the fire department. So when I first started as fiscal court magistrate, we kind of knew each other because of exchanging emails and other stuff. Always found Melissa to be very honest and upfront, and appreciated at times her putting me in my place when I needed it, because there were times when I would ask questions and she obviously knew more than I did. And once I got the same information, I understood why we were doing what we were doing. I appreciate everything you've done for the county. It's been a pleasure to work with you on the budget for 6 years. I enjoy the budget, and I enjoy asking questions about the budget so I can understand it. And Melissa and Stan too, but have always been very honest and upfront and tried to make the process as easy as it can be. It's a very big project. And Pat, you've got big shoes to fill, but we know you can do it. Thank you.
Imagine in time, Pat will be putting you in your place too, but
I'm sure.
it's
I'm sure.
it's
I'm
going
okay with it.
Right. We got a head start on you, Pat. So right now you're you're behind the curve for a while, but that's okay. All right, Magistrate Jeffries.
Yes, I just concur with what my fellow magistrates have said. Melissa, I'm kind of the new kid on the block and first time serving on Finance Committee, but was real impressed with, if we had any questions, no matter how dumb they were or whatever, she would answer them and get us straightened out. So I appreciate that. And I think, it speaks highly when we sent our budget in this time to DLG to be approved. It was approved the first go around. There was no questions, you got to change this, you got to change that or whatever. So I think that speaks highly to her competence confidence and the ability that she has brought to Oldham County for 13 years. So, Melissa, thank you again for that. We're going to certainly miss you, but I know you're off to be able to do some things that you would like to do. Like you said, sleep in later and whatever. So, and I do have one other thing I just want to bring to everybody's attention. I've gotten a couple of calls. I think WDRB had a piece that they did about balloons being released, especially in mass, and ending up out in people's fields and pastures, hay fields and whatever. Livestock will then pick them up, and sometimes they'll, either choke or they'll, they can't eat after they, ingest those balloons. So I would just encourage folks in the county or the cities, either one, to think about, when they get those balloons for birthdays or for some kind of celebration, don't release them into the air, because they, when something goes up, it comes back down, and it gets, if you baling hay on the farm and you get them wrapped up in hay bales and the cattle ingest them or horses, it can be a real tough situation. So just like to make everybody aware to, think twice before you do that. So, Judge, that's everything I had, sir.
All right, thank you. Manager Woosley.
Judge, I just want to remind everybody that fireworks presentation is on July 4th at 9:45 at Wendell Moore Park. The rain date is July 7th. And if you haven't already, download the app for Crossroads LaGrange streaming radio, because the music will be timed with the fireworks. I want to mention this weekend we had some severe storms that rode through the county. The response from our new EMA director, the dispatch, and the fire departments in the county was just unbelievable. So I want to thank them for being on top of it. There is absolutely nothing I could say to Melissa that hasn't already been said, but I will miss you, and I appreciate your friendship, and good luck to you.
Manager Tice.
Well, I guess it's just about been said, everybody. We'll miss you. One of the things that she has brought to us that hasn't been mentioned, her skills in accounting, et cetera, have kept us out of a lot of trouble, but her knowledge in technology has also been a plus to us. So we'll need to pick that up as well. And I had about 3 other things, but I'm scratching them off as we're coming down the list, so thank you.
All right, Magistrate Likens.
Thank you, Judge. Again, Melissa, I'm kind of glad to see you go, because you need to have your retirement and have fun with it, and I'm sad to see you go, so kind of mixed feelings there. I hope the judge goes over the July the 4th fireworks time at Wendell Moore, and I would like for you maybe to remind us once more the rules on shooting off fireworks at your house, because I know we run into that every year. There's some people that are shooting those things off at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we want to be cognizant of everyone else's feelings. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. I can't exactly quote the fireworks rules right off the top of my head. I think you're supposed to stop shooting at midnight on the 4th of July. But realistically speaking, it's our police cannot, people call the police, they say somebody's shooting off fireworks, but in order to do anything when they're shooting them outside the allotted time, they have to see it done. They have to observe it, and it's pretty hard to catch. So we just ask people not to abuse the celebration and to take your neighbors and your neighbors' animals into consideration when you're doing that. A few weeks ago, a gentleman was here and talked about the AT&T extension and our fiber optic service that we're going to have in by no later than March of next year everywhere in the county. He talked a little bit, disappointed about the way some cutting was done and the right-of-way near his property and the neighbor, and also there was some spraying done. We have looked into that, and we found out that AT&T does not spray. So if there was any spraying done in the right-of-way, it has been done by a utility company and not AT&T. They assured us they do absolutely no spraying. We've cautioned them, and they've certainly given their word that they try to do the minimal amount of tree work to get the fiber optic lines through the trees. And believe that's what they're trying to do, and everybody may not see it exactly the same when on their own property, but I have looked at some property that we had a criticism about, and it didn't seem that bad to me. But I'm not the owner of the property where that right-of-way was, so each person has their own perception. But AT&T does not spray. So again, the 4th of July, Magistrate Woosley mentioned this, and Magistrate Likens reiterated 9:45 on the Tuesday at Wendell Moore Park. And this year, for the first time, the fireworks will be synced with music on LaGrange Crossroads Radio. That is a streaming station here in LaGrange. It's not one you can get on the AM or FM dial. You have to go to the internet, type in LaGrange Crossroads Radio. You'll find it right away. You can set it up to go through your car radio if you have Bluetooth, and I think it'll raise the enjoyment that evening as well as the fireworks. So, all right, thank you. We'll have our reception for Melissa in a few minutes. Again, I think it's all been said, and I'm sure it'll be said again in the next room, but thank you, Melissa, and we wish you the best of everything. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.